They say weddings bring out the best in people. Mine brought out a secret so rotten, it shattered my world. My sister didn't just betray me. She slept with my fiancé behind my back. And I found out just 5 days before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. Stick with me while I share my story. And if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Amanda. I'm 29 years old, a nurse living in North Carolina. I've always been the responsible one in the family, the one who helped everyone, especially my little sister Haley. She's 25, full of charm, and usually the center of attention wherever she goes. But I didn't mind. I loved her. She was my maid of honor for my upcoming wedding, or at least she was supposed to be. Daniel and I had been together for 3 years. He was kind, calm, and funny, in a quiet way. We met at a hospital fundraiser and started dating soon after. I really thought he was the one. So when he proposed, I said yes without a second thought. Planning the wedding was stressful, but Haley was always there to help at first. Then things started to change. Haley became distant, cold. She wasn't answering my calls like she used to. She skipped one of my dress fittings and blamed it on traffic. At the same time, Daniel started acting strange too. He got jumpy whenever I walked in the room while he was on his phone. He didn't want to talk about the wedding anymore. He said work was stressing him out. I believed him. I tried to tell myself I was just nervous, that I was imagining things. But then, 5 days before the wedding, something happened that I couldn't ignore. Daniel was in the shower, and I needed to check the calendar on his phone for a vendor appointment. When I opened it, a message popped up on the screen. It was from Haley. It wasn't just a normal message. It was flirty, private, way too personal. My heart stopped. I opened their message thread, and what I saw made me sick. There were messages going back months. Jokes, secrets, photos, things no sister should be sending to her sister's fiancé. I couldn't believe it. My hands were shaking. I felt like I was going to throw up right there on the floor. I didn't say anything right away. I just stood there, holding the phone, trying to breathe. My chest felt tight, like someone had punched me straight in the heart. I had no idea what to do next. But I knew one thing for sure. My wedding wasn't going to happen. Not like this. Not with them. Daniel was in the shower when I reached for his phone. I wasn't trying to snoop or invade his privacy. I just needed to check the calendar. We had a cake tasting that afternoon, and I couldn't remember the time we'd booked it for. But when I picked up the phone, a message popped up. It was from Haley. At first, I thought it was just something funny. A joke maybe. But the words didn't feel like something a sister would send. I froze. My thumb hovered over the message. Against every part of me that wanted to look away, I tapped it open. What I saw didn't feel real. It wasn't just one message. There were dozens. Flirty, dirty, even loving ones. Things no sister should ever say to the man her own sister is going to marry. My heart pounded as I scrolled. I told myself maybe it was a one-time mistake. Maybe it was just emotional. Maybe it wasn't physical. Then I found the photos. Private ones. Some of Haley. Some of Daniel. Some of both. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't look away. I don't know how long I stood there, reading every word, staring at the screen like it could somehow change the truth. But it didn't. This wasn't just a one-time thing. It had been going on for months. While I was busy working long hours at the hospital, while I was planning a wedding, while I was trusting the two people I loved most in the world, and they were doing this behind my back. I wanted to scream, cry, smash the phone, wake Daniel up and throw the phone in his face. But I didn't. I forced myself to stay quiet. I put the phone back exactly how I found it, walked out of the room, sat on the edge of our bed, and stared at the floor for what felt like forever. I needed to be sure. I needed to know everything before I said a word, because once I did, everything would change. There'd be no going back, no fixing it, no pretending. The people who were supposed to protect me had been lying to my face, and I wasn't ready to let them know I knew. Not yet. I waited 2 full days before saying a word. 2 days of pretending I didn't know. 2 days of acting normal, even though my world had already fallen apart. I barely slept. I barely ate. But I needed to see both of them clearly, the real them, before I confronted anything. I called Haley first, asked her to meet me at the little coffee shop near our childhood park. She showed up smiling, wearing one of those cute dresses she always borrowed from me, like nothing had happened. When we sat down, I didn't waste time. I saw the messages, I said, calm but firm. I know about you and Daniel. She froze. Her whole face changed. For a second, she looked like she might deny it. Then her eyes welled up with tears, and she covered her face with her hands. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "It wasn't supposed to happen." I stared at her. "Then why did it? For months." She looked up at me, red-eyed and shaking. "He started it. He said you were always too busy, that he felt lonely. He made me feel special. I didn't mean to hurt you, Amanda. I didn't plan this." Her words made my stomach turn, like she was the victim, like Daniel had somehow dragged her into this. I didn't say anything else. I just got up and walked away. Next, I went home to Daniel. He was on the couch watching TV, acting like everything was fine. I stood in front of him, holding his phone. "I know," I said. "I read everything." His eyes widened. He sat up. "Amanda, what are you talking about?" I tossed the phone onto the couch beside him. "Go ahead, read the messages, out loud." He picked it up and stared at the screen. He didn't say a word. "I saw the photos too," I added quietly. He started mumbling excuses. "It was a mistake. I was stressed. You were always working. It didn't mean anything. It wasn't love." I laughed, a cold, tired laugh. "You cheated on me with my sister, and you want me to believe it wasn't love? That somehow makes it better?" He stood up, reaching for me. "Please, Amanda, we can fix this." "No," I said, stepping back. "You need to leave, now." He looked stunned, like he hadn't expected consequences. "The wedding is off. I already called the venue," I added. He didn't fight. He just grabbed his keys and left. I stood alone in that apartment, surrounded by the pieces of a life I thought I was building. The wedding decorations, the dress hanging in the closet, the guest list on the fridge. But all I could feel was empty. They didn't just betray me, they tore a part of me out, and nothing would ever be the same again. Word spread fast. Within days, everyone in the family knew that the wedding was cancelled, but not everyone knew the reason, until Hayley started showing up with Daniel. Just 2 weeks after the mess, they went public. Hayley posted a photo on Instagram of her and Daniel at a restaurant, holding hands, smiling like nothing had happened. No apology, no shame, just smug happiness. I was crushed. When I confronted my parents about it, expecting them to be as heartbroken as I was met with something worse than silence, excuses. "Hayley made a mistake," my mum said, sipping her coffee like she wasn't talking about my world falling apart. "She's still your sister," my dad added. "Family has to move past things. You girls need each other." I stared at them in disbelief. "She slept with my fiancé." "I know," Mum said softly, "but holding on to anger won't fix anything. As if I broke it, I left their house without saying another word. I realized then that I was alone in this. No support, no understanding, just pressure to forgive, to move on, to act like my pain wasn't real. That's when the depression really hit. I stopped going out. I stopped answering calls. Some days, I just stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was quiet, too quiet, and the silence screamed at me. My life had been turned upside down by the two people I trusted the most, and the people who were supposed to help me didn't. But one night, after crying into my pillow again, something clicked. I couldn't keep drowning like I didn't deserve this kind of ending. The next morning, I made an appointment with a therapist. I started going every week. I talked, I cried, I unpacked all the betrayal. Little by little, I found my footing again. I began to take care of myself, not just to survive, but to grow. I focused on work, took overtime shifts, and even enrolled in an online class. I made new friends, I smiled more, and slowly I started feeling like Amanda again. But don't mistake my healing for forgetting. I wasn't done, not by a long shot, because even if the world wanted me to move on, I had other plans. The year that followed was quiet, at least on the surface. I moved into a new apartment, small but peaceful. No memories haunting the corners, no leftover toothbrush mocking me from the bathroom. I changed the locks on my life and started fresh. At work, I pushed myself, picked up extra shifts, took on more responsibilities. I got a promotion, then another. My bank account started to reflect the hours I poured into healing. People told me I was doing well, that I looked good, that they were proud of me for moving on. And I smiled, nodded, played along. Even around Hayley, I wore the mask. She thought I had forgiven her, or at least she wanted to believe that. At family gatherings, I'd greet her with a tight smile, keep things polite, and avoid anything deeper than weather or food. Our parents clung to the illusion that everything was fine, like sweeping the past under a rug made it disappear. But behind closed doors, I remembered everything. I had never stopped keeping receipts. Literally, Hayley didn't know it, but when she was younger and needed help getting into nursing school, I'd co-signed on her student loans. She promised to stay on top of the payments, promised it wouldn't fall back on me. And at the time, I believed her. We were sisters. Back then, I actually trusted her. After the betrayal, I almost forgot about the loans. Almost. But then, a few months into my new life, I got a notice. Hayley had missed a payment. Then two. Then more. I didn't call her, didn't remind her. I just started collecting. Each late notice went into a folder. Every email reminder, every screenshot, every bit of financial proof that the debt was now becoming mine, all carefully filed away. I also saved the text messages she'd sent after the fallout, the ones where she claimed she never meant to hurt me, that it just happened, and that she didn't think I'd take it so hard. I screenshotted those too. I wasn't being petty, I was being patient. See, they thought I was healing quietly, that I was the bigger person, that I'd tucked my hurt into a box and moved on. But what they didn't realize was that I was building something, not just a new life, but a plan. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting. And forgiveness, I never signed up for that. The final notice came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I remember because I was sitting by the window, sipping tea, watching the drops hit the glass when the letter slid through my mail slot. I opened it, read the words, "Final notice of default," and felt nothing. No panic, no sadness. Just a quiet confirmation of what I'd been waiting for. Hayley had officially stopped paying the loans. She probably assumed I'd let it slide, that I'd cover it, that I'd swallow the debt the same way she expected me to swallow the betrayal. But this time, she'd underestimated me. I didn't call her, didn't send a warning text or ask what was going on. I just went straight to my desk, pulled out the folder I'd been quietly building for over a year, and began filling out paperwork. I filed for damages, breach of contract, and financial fraud. Everything was clean, documented, and well organized. Hayley had borrowed trust. Now she was going to repay it, in court. The court date came faster than expected. As I finalized everything with my attorney, I made sure every receipt, every message, and every missed payment was accounted for. I wasn't going into this half-prepared. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about consequences. But that didn't mean I wasn't going to make a point. Because while the legal side was solid, I had one more thing planned, something Hayley would never see coming. I'd thought about it months ago, late one night while packing up some old boxes. That's when I saw it, the dress, my wedding dress, the one I never got to wear, still wrapped in plastic, still perfectly preserved, like it was waiting for a moment that never came. Until now, the idea came suddenly and stuck with me. I folded the plan into everything else, because if Hayley wanted to play grown-up, if she wanted to walk through life like there were no consequences, then she could walk into court dressed like the bride she helped destroy. I didn't just want justice, I wanted symbolism. And now, with the court date set and everything ready, all I had to do was wait for the right moment to make the call. The storm I'd been preparing for was finally here. The morning of the court hearing, I called Hayley. I hadn't spoken to her in weeks, and the sound of her voice when she picked up was uncertain, like she didn't know what to expect. I kept my tone soft, friendly, almost like the old me. I told her I wanted to talk before we went into court. I said it would be better if we could show the judge we were being civil, maybe even working things out. She seemed surprised, but eager. That was always Hayley, desperate to look like the good guy. Then I said, "Make sure you wear something formal. It's court after all." There was a long pause. She mumbled something about not having anything nice that still fit, and that's when I offered the dress. "I think I have something that might work," I said, walking over to the storage closet. I pulled out the garment bag, the one that held my cancelled wedding dress, the one I never wore, the one I should have worn to marry Daniel before she slept with him. "It's just sitting here," I said casually. "Might as well get some use." She hesitated. "Isn't that your wedding dress?" "No," I lied. "It's just a formal dress I never got around to wearing. It's simple, classy, it'll look good on you." That was all it took. 30 minutes later, she was at my door. I didn't invite her in. I just handed her the garment bag and watched her walk away with it clutched in her hands, thanking me like I'd done her a favor. By the time I arrived at the courthouse, she was already there, standing outside checking her reflection in the glass. The moment I stepped out of the car, her eyes met mine, and for the first time in a long time, I saw real confusion on her face. She looked down at her dress, then back at me. It hit her. She was wearing my wedding dress. She hadn't noticed when she'd put it on. Not really. She probably thought it was just a coincidence that it zipped up so perfectly, that the beading shimmered in that exact pattern. But now she knew, and she couldn't unzip it in public. She couldn't change the moment. She had walked right into it. I walked past her, said nothing, and entered the courtroom with my head held high, let her stand there, in white, for once feeling the weight of something she tried to steal. Today wasn't her wedding day, it was Judgment Day. Haley sat stiffly at the plaintiff's table, tugging nervously at the sleeves of the white dress. My old wedding dress. The one she'd worn thinking it was just some forgotten gown I'd loaned her. She didn't know it had once been meant for the day I married Daniel, the man she'd stolen from me. I arrived a few minutes late, walking into the courtroom in a navy blue suit, heels clicking against the floor. All eyes turned. I didn't say a word to Haley as I sat across from her, but she looked at me, and I could see it all over her face. Embarrassment, regret, fear. The judge looked at her, then at me, then back at the dress. Unusual choice of attire for a civil case, he muttered, barely hiding his curiosity. I just smiled politely. I had no intention of making a scene. I didn't have to. Once things began, I kept my voice even, calm. No outbursts, no drama, just facts. I laid out the messages between Haley and Daniel, not because they were relevant to the lawsuit, but because they explained motive. Then, I presented the co-signed loan agreements. I had copies of everything, signed documents, bank records, final notices. I showed how she'd stopped paying a year ago, how the debt had been piling up in my name. Haley tried to speak up a few times, but her voice shook. She said she thought I'd forgiven her, that I hadn't mentioned the loans in months, that she didn't mean for it to get this far. I didn't respond. I just looked at the judge. When I finished presenting the evidence, I closed my folder and folded my hands. That's all, Your Honor. The room was quiet for a moment. Haley couldn't even meet my eyes. She looked small in that dress. Ridiculous, really. Like a child playing dress-up. It didn't fit the way she'd hoped it would. Not anymore. I wasn't the heartbroken bride she remembered. I was the woman who came to collect what was owed, with interest. The courtroom was quiet as the judge shuffled his papers, glasses sliding down the bridge of his nose. Haley sat frozen in my old wedding dress, her face pale and lips tight. She wouldn't even glance in my direction. I didn't care anymore. The judge cleared his throat. After reviewing all evidence presented, the court rules in favor of the plaintiff, Amanda Grayson. My chest rose slightly, but I didn't move. He continued, the defendant is ordered to repay the outstanding loan balance of $24,000, along with accrued interest, legal fee, and damages totaling an additional $6,000. Haley's mouth dropped open. She looked like she might faint, but I kept my eyes forward. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smirk. I just nodded once and gathered my papers, calm, controlled. Daniel never showed up, not to court, not even to check on Haley. I guess betrayal doesn't guarantee loyalty. He probably ran the moment things got hard, just like he always did. Let him stay gone. As I walked past Haley, I didn't say a word. I could feel her staring at me, maybe waiting for me to gloat, but I had nothing more to give her. Not my anger, not my pain, not even my attention. She took everything once. Now, I took something back. Outside the courthouse, the sky was clear and quiet. The air smelled like rain was coming, but it hadn't arrived yet. I walked to the parking lot, heels clicking on the pavement, and found her car easily. Same scratched bumper, same sun-faded dreamcatcher hanging from the mirror. I pulled a folded note from my bag and tucked it under her windshield wiper. It wasn't long, just a few words scribbled on a pale pink card, the same color I'd once picked for my wedding theme. You wore the dress. That's all you ever wanted, right? I stood for a second, then turned and walked away. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't even about the betrayal anymore. It was about knowing I had taken my pain and turned it into power. I didn't yell, beg, or break. I didn't need revenge that burned bridges. I needed closure that left them standing while I walked away. Haley could keep the dress, the memories, even the silence. But I got something far more valuable, myself. It's been 8 months since the court date. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. Other times, like it just happened yesterday. I live in a quiet part of town now. My apartment is small but filled with sunlight. I have my own space, my own peace. I work full-time at the hospital and even started volunteering with trauma survivors. It feels good to help others find strength, the way I had to find mine. Haley is still in debt. She tried asking my parents for help, but they told her she needed to fix her own mess. Most of the family keeps their distance now. I think they finally saw who she really was, or maybe they realized who I had become. Daniel moved out of state, no forwarding address, no goodbye. That part didn't hurt. If anything, it was a relief. His silence said more than his words ever did. I started dating again, slowly. I met someone at the bookstore, of all places. His name is Mark. He's calm, kind, and doesn't ask for more than I'm ready to give. We talk, we laugh, we take walks and drink too much coffee. It's not a fairy tale, but it's real. And that's more than enough. Sometimes I still think about that day, the courtroom, the dress, the look on Haley's face. I don't regret any of it. Not the lawsuit, not the note, not the silence I've kept ever since. Forgiveness is not a gift I owe to anyone who broke me on purpose. I didn't just get revenge. I got my closure. And maybe that's the real win, not the money, not the courtroom victory, not even the poetic moment with the dress. It's the fact that I walked away from it all stronger, clearer, and freer than I ever thought I could be. I still have that dress, by the way. She gave it back eventually. I had it dry cleaned and packed away, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder that I survived, and that I did it in couture. Do you think Amanda went too far with her revenge, or did Haley and Daniel deserve everything they got? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear what you think. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss one.